You clicked on the video because you're wondering, can I use water mixable oil paint or water soluble oil paint to paint exactly like Bob Ross using the wet on wet technique? This is a question I get asked all the time, so you know what? Let's dive into it. What is up, all you awesome painters? Wild here, helping you become bigger and better with your painting adventures. Let's start strong. What exactly is water mixable oil paint, sometimes called water soluble oil paint? Water mixable oil paint is just like normal oil paint. However, it's been changed on the molecular level to be soluble in water. How precisely? I have no idea. I'm not a chemist. I can only give you my personal experience using water mixable oils, painting like Bob Ross, using the wet on wet technique, doing landscape paintings, and working in abstracts. Water mixable oil paints come out of the tube nice and thick, just like normal oil paint. They also have a buttery flow to them, just like normal oil paint. And they have long working times and drying times, just like normal oil paint. There's a lot of benefits when it comes to water mixable oil paint. Obviously, you can mix it with water, but we will dive a little deeper on this in just a moment. With water mixable paints, you can create transparent glazes or layers by simply adding water or water mixable mediums. You can even create water washes for an underpainting, but this comes with an asterisk that we will talk about a little bit more later in this video. They are super easy to clean up. Since it's water soluble, that means you can easily clean it up with just water or any organic cleaner. If you're an acrylic artist out there looking for longer working and drying times, water mixable oils are a great option for you. Stains in clothes are way easier to get out once you introduce a lot of water and soap. I also personally find it way easier to do outdoor painting or travel with my paints when I use water mixable oil paints, because I don't have to worry about any dangerous or harmful thinners or thinking about taking chemicals in any place or spilling them in nature. Water mixable oils are a great option for outdoor painting. Water mixable oils are also a way healthier option for any artist out there. Artists don't need to use any solvents that may be harmful to your health. They also don't produce any harmful VOCs or vapors that you might breathe in. And if you're kind of like me, I have a sensitive nose. I mean, when you have a nose this big, obviously it can pick up smells for miles. But when I use water mixable oils, there's no extra thinner vapor that I have to smell. So if you're sensitive to smells, you might want to consider water mixable oils. The nice thing about water mixable oils is that you can still use mediums to increase flow or create effects. You just have to make sure those mediums are also water soluble. Some of the ones that I personally like are the Winsor Newton water mixable thinner, Winsor Newton water mixable linseed oil, and Gamblin solvent-free gel. While there are no real big negatives about water mixable oil paints, there are some things that you should be aware of. While water mixable oils do have a longer drying time than acrylics, they are shorter on drying time when you're comparing them to normal oils. If you add any amount of water to your water mixable oil paint, the paint is going to dry even faster due to the evaporation of the water. You're probably wondering, can you use water mixable oil paint with normal oil paint? And the answer is yes, you can. However, the moment that you mix water mixable oil paint with normal oil paint, it is no longer water mixable and requires thinners, oils, or other solvents for cleaning. And that's because obviously normal oil paint and water don't get along. So what is the correct and proper way to use water mixable oil paints? Well, I think there's actually three main ways to use water mixable paints. It's either to use them with water, water soluble mediums, or a combination of both. Now I set up this grid behind me to give you a better understanding of how water mixable oils work, depending on how you plan on using them. The top left corner is our control. That is paint right out of the tube, and you can see how buttery smooth it is on the application of the canvas. It looks great. Sorry about the alignment here, but to the side of that, we're gonna use a drop or two of water to increase the flow. Again, you can see how it goes on smoothly, has great coverage, and looks great. To the side, we will be using just a drop or two of water soluble medium to increase the flow of our paint. You can see again how it goes on so smoothly and has great coverage. Looks great. Below this, we're gonna do a mix ratio and introduce about 10 to 20% medium to our paint. Still, the paint goes on perfectly, but it does start to become more transparent and show the canvas underneath. But to let you know, that is normal, so we're still good here. For our water side, we will introduce the same 10 to 20%. We have a good application, but I do have to work a little bit more because I can feel the paint start to grab on the canvas, but it goes on great. Next, we're gonna do a makeshift wash with 50% medium, and it looks okay for the most part. When we do 50% water, it was way too much and it was running all over my canvas. So I would say I actually knocked it down to 30%. And even at 30% water, you start to notice how the paint beads up and it really cuts through the paint with paint brush stroke marks here. Just for fun, I thought it would be nice to show you a 50% wash, but oh man, it is extremely runny and the paint beads up a ton unless you work the paint a lot. Let's talk about that water wash asterisk for just a moment. While the water wash looks pretty decent overall, I do not know if this will be archival and not crack over time when you paint on top of it, due to the fact that the manufacturer even says adding too much water will break the paint and binders within it. That being said, I personally have paintings that are 3 years old and friends that have paintings that are even longer that are done with water mixable oil paints that have been thinned down pretty good, that have lasted and have not cracked. So I guess do your own research, test it, and see for yourself. But I just wanted to give you that warning just in case. All right, so how does water mixable oil paint work when you're trying to paint like Bob Ross and use the wet on wet technique to paint things like landscapes? Well, I did a 10-minute example wet on wet painting. Now these are nothing special, so please don't judge me on them. It was just to test what you can do with wet on wet painting using water mixable oil paints and water and medium only. When it came to making liquid white, it was a lot easier to make with water soluble medium. You could easily mimic the creamy texture and glide it onto the canvas. The liquid white water version was a lot more difficult to make. It definitely wasn't creamy and it definitely didn't glide on. I had to work it in, but as you're about to see, it does work overall, but it does have some slight differences to it. When it comes to this guy, I am just slapping color in here. For the liquid medium side, colors go on easy and blend great. They're super smooth with the liquid white medium base underneath. For the water side, to my surprise, the colors actually go on somewhat easy and blend well to make a gradient. I did notice it's not as smooth as the water soluble medium, but that's fine because some artists like to show more brushstrokes or have a patchy approach. And to be honest, I think it actually looks pretty darn decent, but I did have to work it just a little bit more. For the tree line, the medium side works well just like normal oil, which is awesome. However, on the water side, it has started to dry up and get a little tacky. So when I applied my paint, it becomes more patchy over time, which requires me to use more oil paint and introduce a little bit of water to make it flow. When we use the water soluble medium on the water, reflections and water lines, they were all really easy to do. It's a little patchy, but that's most likely because I didn't add enough liquid white near the bottom because I was just rushing. However, what is nice about using the liquid white soluble medium is that you can easily reactivate the paint and move it around. Great if you sometimes make happy accidents. Just add a little bit of medium to your brush and start moving the paint around to your liking. On our water only side, this is where things started to become more patchy and I started working on things more and more, or adding more paint and water to certain spots to get the paint to flow. Yeah, it worked, but I had to work it a lot more. To be 100% honest with you, I've only ever used water mixable oil paints with water soluble mediums. I find that has the best result for my talents, skills, and style I want to have. But I was extremely pleasantly surprised at how much I was able to do just using water. Given enough time and practice, I think anyone could do an awesome Bob Ross wet on wet landscape painting using just water. You just have to probably work in smaller sections as you work your way through the entire landscape. But I think it would actually be kind of cool just to get away with water. Now, would I recommend water mixable oil paints if you're trying to paint like Bob Ross or use the wet on wet technique? Yeah, I would. But just like I was saying, I would also highly recommend using water mixable mediums along with water mixable oil paint. I personally think you need it to create a great liquid white or use it for a liquid clear substitute. It will keep your canvas wetter for longer if you're a slower painter or just want to take more time with details. And using mediums will also give you more control over your paints and give you the ability to create more effects within your painting. Now, like I was saying, the 3 mediums that I mentioned earlier are the 3 mediums that I personally use and highly recommend. That was the Winsor & Newton water mixable thinner, which is great for just thinning down your paint. The Winsor & Newton water mixable linseed oil, which is a great liquid clear substitute and keeping things wet. And the Gamblin solvent-free gel, which is great for making paints flow and making your paints nice and creamy for awesome highlights and texture. Okay, but wow, what about the Bob Ross specific stuff? Would water mixable oils still work for that, and would you recommend it? Yeah, I would. Water mixable oil paints can create the same buttery, smooth, and vibrant gradients. Water mixable oil paints are firm out of the tube, so you can do things like paint breaks with ease. In fact, all of my YouTube shorts are done with water mixable oil paint because I want something easy to clean up afterwards. Water mixable oil paints also stay wet, so you can move them around or fix any mistakes. And you can also add mediums to them, making them a great option to make your paints more creamy for easy highlights. And one of the best parts about water mixable oil paints that I want to take a moment to talk about is the fact that the cleanup, like I was just saying, is so easy. Essentially, you can just hit it with water and wipe it clean, or use any organic cleaner like we said before. I personally just like to use lukewarm water and soap, and you're all good. I do, however, recommend, since you're gonna be using water which can strip the nourishment out of all the bristles in your brushes, using the Master Brush Cleaner and Preserver, so that way you treat your brushes nice for the long haul. Just use this after you've used soap and water, run it through the Master Brush Cleaner and Preserver, and you're good. Now, do I have any particular paint or manufacturer that I recommend? Well, I've only ever used Winsor & Newton water mixable oil paint, mostly because that's what I just had accessible to me, and I like the budget friendly option that I had and the colors that were available. And that's probably gonna be the most available one, depending on which country or region you're in. However, I do have friends that have tried out Cobra water mixable oil paints and they swear by it. And I'm also aware of Lucas water mixable oil paints. From my research, most artists out there that aren't stuck up say they're all pretty even. So my suggestion is click on the Amazon link below and see which one is most affordable for you in your country or region and give it a test. I think you'll actually really like it. And of course, as always, thank you for using my link down below and supporting the channel. Now, I just did a quick slap on of color here to demonstrate how you can use water mixable oil paint, but you know what? There's another video I can do to show you how to get the most out of your water mixable oil paints if you plan on painting like Bob Ross or doing landscape paintings. And if you would love to see that video, you gotta do me a favor. Go down below, smash that subscribe button, and leave me a comment. And also, if you're interested, I got a downloadable PDF that'll get you started on oil painting the right way so you save some money. But until then, check out the beautiful videos to my side where you see more of me getting choked up with my beautiful face. And I'll see you all later. Take care, and of course, peace.